When 16-year-old Emily borrowed a cup of sugar from her next-door neighbor, she never expected to uncover a secret that would turn her whole world upside down. Inside an old drawer, tucked between faded letters and dusty keepsakes, she found a baby photo of herself. What followed was a chain of revelations that would expose buried lies, long-lost love, and a truth that no one in their quiet neighborhood could have imagined. It was a golden Saturday morning in the sleepy suburb of Willow Creek. The air carried the faint scent of freshly cut grass, and somewhere in the distance, a lawnmower hummed steadily. Emily Carter adjusted her messy ponytail as she whisked pancake batter in the kitchen. "Mom," she called out, "we're out of sugar again." Her mother, Diane, appeared from the hallway, still in her robe. "There should be some in the pantry." Emily checked, then sighed. "Nope, empty." Diane frowned, slightly distracted. "Try Mrs. Wilson next door. She usually has everything." Mrs. Wilson, a quiet, elderly woman with silver hair and kind eyes, had been their neighbor for as long as Emily could remember. She lived alone, her husband having passed away years ago, and spent most of her days tending to her roses or sitting on her porch with tea. So, Emily grabbed an empty mug and jogged across the lawn, the morning sun warming her face. When she knocked, the door creaked open. "Oh, Emily, good morning." Mrs. Wilson smiled warmly. "Come in, dear. I was just finishing my tea." The old woman shuffled toward the kitchen, motioning for Emily to follow. The air smelled faintly of lavender and lemon polish, and sunlight filtered through lace curtains, illuminating a row of framed photographs along the wall, some of them decades old. "Sugar, right? Top drawer near the stove," Mrs. Wilson said, her voice soft but steady. Emily walked over and opened the drawer carefully. Inside were measuring spoons, old recipe cards, and a small wooden box pushed to the back. Curiosity tugged at her. She reached in and pulled it out. The lid was slightly ajar. Inside were letters, old photographs, and right on top a picture that made her heart stop. It was her, a chubby-cheeked baby with a blue blanket, smiling at the camera. The same photo her mom kept framed in their living room. Same outfit, same pose, except this one looked slightly older, a second shot from the same day. Her hand trembled as she turned toward Mrs. Wilson. "Mrs. Wilson, why do you have this photo?" Mrs. Wilson froze, her expression flickering from surprise to something unreadable. Slowly, she set down her teacup. "Oh," she murmured, "you found that." Emily frowned. "This is me. Why do you have it?" The older woman hesitated, her eyes softening. "It's complicated, dear. I probably should have told your mother a long time ago." Before she could continue, Diane's voice cut through the open doorway. "Emily, did you get the sugar?" Emily turned as her mom stepped inside, and the moment Diane saw the photo in Emily's hand, her face went pale. "Where did you get that?" she demanded, her voice trembling. Emily blinked. "From her drawer." "Mom, what's going on?" Diane looked like she'd seen a ghost. "You shouldn't have." "That's not." Mrs. Wilson spoke softly. "Diane, she deserves to know. It's been 16 years. "Not now," Diane snapped. "Please." But the silence that followed was unbearable. Emily's heart thudded in her chest. "Mom," she whispered, "what aren't you telling me?" Diane's lips parted, but no words came out. Mrs. Wilson sighed heavily, the kind of sigh that carries decades of pain. "Emily, I'm your grandmother." Emily blinked, her mind spinning. "What? That doesn't make sense. My grandparents died before I was born." Mrs. Wilson's eyes glistened. "No, dear. Only one of them did. I'm your father's mother." Emily's breath caught. "My father?" "Mom said he left before I was born." Diane's voice cracked. "He didn't leave. He died in a car accident, Emily. And your grandmother," she gestured toward Mrs. Wilson, "blamed me for it." The room went silent except for the faint ticking of an old clock. Mrs. Wilson's lips trembled. "I was angry, and I said things I didn't mean. I told her she'd taken him from me. When you were born, I wasn't allowed to see you. So, I kept that photo. It was the only piece of you I had." Emily's throat tightened as tears welled in her eyes. The room felt smaller, the air heavier. "I thought you both hated each other," Emily whispered. "We did," Diane admitted, tears streaming now. "But it wasn't hate. It was grief. We both lost the same person just in different ways. Mrs. Wilson nodded, her hands trembling as she reached for the photo. Your father was everything to me. When he died, I couldn't accept it. I blamed the woman he loved because it was easier than blaming fate. For a moment, the only sound was the quiet hum of the refrigerator. Then Emily stepped forward, clutching the photo to her chest. So all this time, she said softly, we've lived next door to each other and didn't even know we were family. Mrs. Wilson's voice broke. I watched you grow up from my window. Every birthday, every first day of school. I wanted to knock on your door 1,000 times. But pride, it's a terrible thing, child. It keeps love locked away. Diane wiped her eyes, and I let fear do the same. I thought if I forgave you, it would make me weak, but it just made me lonelier. Mrs. Wilson reached out her hand hesitantly. Can you forgive an old fool, Diane? For a long moment, neither moved. Then Diane took her hand. The gesture was small, but it was enough to make Emily's heart ache. That evening, the three of them sat on Mrs. Wilson's porch, the setting sun painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. Mrs. Wilson brought out an old photo album, one Emily had never seen. There were pictures of her father, laughing, fixing a car, holding baby Emily in his arms. Each photo filled a gap Emily hadn't known existed. I always wondered where I got my smile, she whispered. Diane smiled faintly. Now you know. For the first time, the air between them felt lighter, the years of bitterness dissolving in the warmth of shared memories. Before they left, Mrs. Wilson handed Emily a small, wrapped package. This was your father's, she said softly. Inside was a silver pendant shaped like a heart, slightly tarnished with age. On the back were engraved 3 words, love finds a way. Emily slipped it around her neck, feeling its comforting weight. Thank you, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Mrs. Wilson smiled. No, dear. Thank you for knocking on my door. That day, Emily learned that family isn't just about blood or history, it's about forgiveness, the courage to face the past, and the simple act of opening a door when life gives you a chance. Sometimes, the answers we search for aren't hidden far away, they're right next door, waiting for us to look closely enough to see them. 2 months after Emily discovered her hidden family secret, life in Willow Creek seemed peaceful again until a sealed envelope arrived that would unravel another truth. It carried her grandmother's handwriting, and a secret that would test her mother's forgiveness, her own courage, and the legacy of a man they both thought they knew. What Emily uncovered next would change not just her family, but their entire town. The morning sun spilled gently through Emily's curtains. The necklace her grandmother had given her, the silver heart engraved, "Love finds a way," glimmered faintly on her dresser. Since that unforgettable afternoon, Emily, her mother Diane, and Mrs. Wilson had begun to rebuild what time had once broken. They shared dinners, old stories, and quiet laughter. For the first time, their house didn't feel divided by grief. But that peace didn't last long. One chilly Thursday, as autumn leaves scattered across the porch, the mailman handed Emily a thick cream envelope. The handwriting on the front made her pause. To my beloved granddaughter, Emily. Open this when you are ready. Grandma Margaret Wilson. Her breath caught. She ran to the living room. Mom, she said, holding the envelope. It's from Grandma. Diane looked up from the couch, startled. But Margaret passed last week. The lawyer said she didn't leave anything. Emily swallowed hard. Then what's this? Diane hesitated. Maybe we should open it together. The fire crackled softly as Emily slid her finger under the seal and pulled out several handwritten pages and an old key. At the top, her grandmother's words shimmered faintly in ink. My dearest Emily, if you're reading this, I'm no longer there to tell you the whole truth face to face. I spent too many years hiding behind pride. There's something your mother doesn't know, something I meant to fix before my time came. Emily's hands trembled as she turned to Diane, who looked pale. Mom, what does she mean? Diane shook her head. I don't know. Your father, Michael, didn't die in the accident immediately, the letter continued. He survived for several hours. Before he passed, he gave me something I kept hidden out of guilt. It's in the old shed behind my house. The key in this envelope will open the chest. I couldn't tell your mother then. I thought I was protecting her, but maybe I was just protecting myself. Emily and Diane stared at each other in stunned silence. The chest, Emily whispered. The one she always kept locked. Diane nodded slowly. She told everyone it was full of old tax papers. But now both of them knew it wasn't. The next morning, mist hung low over Willow Creek as Emily and Diane walked toward Mrs. Wilson's backyard. The air smelled of damp earth and pine. The shed stood quiet, its wooden door creaking as Emily pushed it open. Dust floated in slants of light, and in the corner sat the chest, small, iron-banded, and heavy with years of secrets. Diane swallowed hard. "Go ahead, sweetheart." Emily slipped the key into the lock. It clicked open with a faint metallic echo. Inside were stacks of yellowed papers, photographs, and a small, sealed box labeled for Diane. Emily lifted it carefully and handed it to her mother. With trembling hands, Diane opened it. Inside was a letter and a folded document. She unfolded the paper and gasped. "It's a will," she said, voice shaking. "But it's not hers. It's your father's." Emily leaned closer. "What does it say?" Diane's eyes filled with tears as she read aloud. "If anything happens to me, I want my mother and my wife to share everything equally, the house, the savings, and the trust fund for our daughter." Emily froze. "Trust fund?" Diane nodded slowly. "He had money set aside for you, for your education. I thought we lost everything after the accident, but Margaret must have hidden it." She flipped to the next page, a short letter written in Margaret's careful hand. "I couldn't bear to give this to you, Diane. I blamed you for taking him from me, even though deep down I knew it wasn't your fault. Every time I looked at his will, it reminded me of what I'd lost. I was wrong. Please forgive me. Use this money for Emily's dreams." That's what he wanted. Diane covered her face as tears streamed freely. "All those years, I struggled to raise you alone, Emily, and she could have helped." Emily placed a hand on her mother's shoulder. "She was scared, Mom, just like you were. Maybe she was trying to make it right now." Later that week, Emily and her mother met with Mrs. Wilson's lawyer, who confirmed everything. The account was still active untouched for 16 years. Enough to pay for Emily's future and then some. But money wasn't the real gift. It was the truth, the full story her grandmother had never been brave enough to tell in life. When they returned home that evening, Emily sat on her porch, holding her grandmother's letter. The autumn wind rustled the trees, and somewhere, a single rose petal drifted from Mrs. Wilson's garden across the lawn. "I wish she'd told us sooner," Emily murmured. Diane smiled softly. "She told us when we needed to hear it." Emily nodded, fingers tracing the pendant on her neck. "Love finds a way," she whispered, "even after we're gone." That night, she placed the letter in a frame beside her father's photo, a reminder that truth doesn't always come easy, but it always arrives when hearts are ready to listen. Some secrets aren't meant to destroy, they wait patiently to heal. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past, but it opens the door for something stronger, understanding. Moral: the truth may sleep for years, but love never forgets to wake it. What part of this story touched your heart the most? Do you think you could forgive someone who hid the truth for so long? Have you ever discovered a family secret that changed how you saw someone? Please comment and subscribe for more stories.